the environment seems very pessimistic. What is your outlook for the global economy?
Well, pessimistic is an understatement still, but well, most people, well, the latest news I'm seeing recently is a fall in inflation that drove the stock prices up a few basis points. You probably saw it over the week, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I guess we still have service side inflation and we still have monetary inflation. And that's a very long-term problem for central banks. If you look at the global financial markets, you will realize that jobs are quite resilient. The last data look at, we have wage growth up in the US 5%. We're not seeing the equity market. The market hasn't actually discounted the rise in interest rate or the rise in interest rate we expect. So not to go off tangent, whenever time inflation passes 5% in history, the Fed funds rate always end up having to match inflation. So sometimes it takes the Fed fund rate to reach the same level as inflation to see some form of cooling down in the economy. The Federal Reserve is going for 5%, which they consider is equilibrium. So really and truly, Lance, it's the same thesis I have 2 years ago, is unprecedented monetary policy as a percentage of GDP. So we expect interest rate cycle to now take effect going into the next 2 years or so.
Okay. So regarding inflation, I expect the Fed to raise the rate few more points up to 8.
The Fed have approximately about 5 more cycling interest rate cycling hikes. And the reason for that, Malance, is the equity market really, really, truly haven't accounted for the interest rate hike. If you look, global equity market falls 16%. And if you look at the type of inflation that we're dealing with, it's a different beast we're dealing with. If you look at one of the main drivers of service side inflation will probably be the oil, right? The oil shocks that is in Europe. And Biden has just made the move to go ahead and use the nation's strategic oil reserve to aid in the inflationary tax on consumers. So probably that's one of the reasons why we're seeing inflation going down into some senses. But monetary inflation is still a threat.
Okay. Miss Aris, anything you want to add to that?
I think in terms of the pessimism, it's really linked to general expectations of lower economic activity. So I think even if you look at like IMF in terms of their outlook and their projections, you continually see, each time they come, World Bank comes to that projection, it's going downwards. And so that would have, impacted into, I guess the psyche of thinking. If it is that economic activities are projected to decline, then what does that mean for businesses? What does that mean for me as an individual? If my company is not going to be making as much, will they be needing as much staff as they currently have? And so that sort of thinking, I think, matters or, pans out into how it is that people process information. And particularly for people who would have, probably been of working age during the last recession, I think it wasn't so far ago. And so there's still some sort of freshness of what it is that happens during a period of, economic downturn or, continuous downturn. And I think that plays into some of the pessimism that you probably are seeing in terms of persons are just not sure what to expect. I think as Ruan would have mentioned, in terms of the inflation and the interest rate, that also factors into thinking. So persons are watching inflation and you kind of see it go up and it come down and you think, oh, it's cooling, and then it goes up again. And that sort of uncertainty makes people nervous, because if the central bank is reacting to inflation, but we're not seeing a downturn in inflation, or even if we see it dip a little bit, it goes back up, then what does that mean? And I think right across, you see where central banks are very aggressive towards the moves that they're making. So you're not seeing, small moves like, at the start of it when they just started to raise rates. You're not seeing these little baby moves. They're really becoming strong and aggressive. And so it points to the fact that if it is that we're not seeing this inflation coming down, will they continue with that aggressive stance? And I think probably in mid-year, I don't think anybody necessarily anticipated that probably the BOJ policy rate would be moving towards 7 at year end, but that's where it is. And so that factors into the thinking, if it is that rates are higher, what does that mean for the financial companies? What does that mean for persons who want to expand the business? So all of that factors into and adds to more of a negative outlook, which I guess spurs the pessimism.